What if I told you that a powerful spiritual force, hidden for millennia, still pulses through the fabric of our world today? What if the very origins of our beliefs were not only buried in history, but intentionally erased to keep us from reclaiming our true power? What if the ancient African religions, long vilified as pagan or savage, actually hold the key to a deeper understanding of humanity's connection to the divine? For centuries, we've been told that African spiritual traditions are nothing more than superstition, rooted in ignorance and darkness. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if the ancient wisdom of African civilizations like Egypt, Nubia, and Mali was not just powerful in its time, but is still influencing the world today, camouflaged in the music, dance, and even the rituals of modern life? The so-called black religion, once seen as a threat, was not just about survival, but a profound connection to the universe, to nature, and to the divine energy that flows through everything. In this video, we will unearth the hidden roots of this ancient spirituality. You will discover the powerful, timeless rituals that once guided great empires, and how they have been secretly preserved in the symbols, songs, and customs you may already see around you. We will dive into why this knowledge was deliberately suppressed, and how its survival challenges everything you thought you knew about history, faith, and your connection to the divine. But the question is, why were these truths hidden from us? And what would happen if we rediscovered them today? What if unlocking these secrets could unlock your true spiritual potential? Get ready to question everything, because once you see the truth behind the black religion, it might just change the way you view the world, forever. The roots of African spirituality run deeper than most can imagine. It stretches back to ancient civilizations that not only created magnificent empires, but also possessed profound wisdom that connected them to forces beyond the visible world. Yet for centuries, much of this knowledge has been erased, distorted, or simply forgotten. In fact, some of the most powerful and transformative spiritual truths in human history were intentionally hidden. These truths were not just about gods or rituals, they were about the divine force that connects everything in the universe, the very essence of life itself. Why was this wisdom buried so deeply? The reason is simple but profound. Those in power recognized the immense strength that such knowledge carried. The ancient African religions were not merely a set of beliefs. They were a path to personal empowerment, a direct connection to the divine and to the forces of nature that move through every aspect of existence. These traditions gave the people a power that was not dependent on external authority, but on the inner strength of every individual. This was a threat to colonial powers and religious institutions, which sought to control people by separating them from their own inner connection to the divine. Imagine this. The ancient Egyptians, with their magnificent pyramids, were not simply building grand structures. They were constructing sacred sites that aligned with cosmic forces. Their spiritual knowledge was not just abstract, it was deeply practical. They understood how to harness the energy of the earth, the stars, and the elements to achieve not only physical and mental balance, but also spiritual transcendence. What they built, what they created, was a living testament to a way of seeing the world where nothing is separate. Everything is interconnected, every breath, every stone, every star in the sky. And this wisdom was not just theirs, it was meant for all of us, passed down through generations, waiting to be rediscovered. But in the darkness of colonial rule and the rise of religious dogma, this sacred knowledge was stripped away, demonized, and erased from history. Rituals that connected people to their ancestors, to the earth, to the very forces of life, were branded as witchcraft or superstition. The powerful symbols, chants, and practices of African spirituality were buried under layers of fear, misinformation, and oppression. Yet, despite this, the essence of this spirituality could not be destroyed. It has survived in the rhythms of music, in the movement of dance, and in the festivals that continue to light up our lives today. If you listen closely, you may hear the echo of ancient chants, feel the pull of ancestral wisdom that still moves through the world, disguised but alive. Consider the music, the drum beats that once carried secret messages across the lands of Africa, now found in everything from jazz to hip-hop. These rhythms are not just sounds, they are a language, a spiritual code that connects us to the forces of the universe. The drum is not just an instrument, it is a bridge between worlds, a tool to align body, mind and spirit with the divine frequency that runs through all of existence. And these drums, these rhythms are still with us, hidden in plain sight. They pulse through our cities, our cultures and our very bodies. If you listen closely, they speak to you of something greater, something ancient and powerful. But why does this matter? Why is it so crucial to rediscover these forgotten truths? The answer is simple. It is the key to unlocking a deeper, more authentic connection to ourselves and to the divine. This ancient wisdom is not something relegated to the past. It is living, breathing, and pulsating right now in the hearts of those who still carry it. When we reconnect with these ancient practices, we not only reclaim our spiritual heritage, but we also find healing, empowerment, and transformation. We begin to understand that we are not separate from nature, from the divine, or from each other. We are one. And when we remember this, we unlock a power within ourselves that cannot be taken away, no matter what. In every culture, in every corner of the world, the ancient knowledge of spiritual connection, of healing, and of transformation is still alive. It's woven into our music, our traditions, and even our languages. The symbols of African spirituality are found not just in the sacred texts, but in the hidden stories that are passed down through generations, often disguised as folk tales, myths, and rituals. Even the Bible itself carries traces of this ancient wisdom, though these connections have been buried over time, carefully hidden from the masses. The story of Moses and the Exodus, for instance, is not just a tale of liberation. It is deeply intertwined with the ancient spiritual practices of Egypt, practices that connected the people to the very forces of the earth and the cosmos. The Ark of the Covenant, the sacred priestly robes, the incense and the oils. These were not just symbols of religion, they were deeply rooted in the spiritual systems of Africa. These practices were designed not just to honor the divine, but to harness the power of the divine, to align the physical and spiritual worlds in a harmonious dance that transcended the limitations of time and space. And yet, these truths have been obscured, hidden beneath centuries of fear, prejudice, and misunderstanding. The question then becomes, why were these connections hidden? Why were the ancient spiritual practices of Africa, so full of wisdom and healing, erased from the narrative of human history? The answer is simple. Those in power knew that this knowledge was dangerous. It was dangerous because it gave people the power to heal themselves, to protect themselves, and to transform their lives. It was dangerous because it didn't require intermediaries, temples, or religious authorities. It was a direct connection to the divine, a connection that made people free. And when people are free, they cannot be controlled. And so, the powers that be sought to destroy this knowledge, to silence the drums, to erase the sacred rituals that had the potential to unite, empower, and liberate. They rebranded the divine as distant, as something that could only be accessed through intermediaries, through churches, through controlled institutions. They silenced the voices of those who still carried the ancient wisdom and transformed their practices into something evil, something to be feared. They rewrote history to exclude the powerful role that African spirituality played in shaping the world's religions and spiritual systems. And yet, even in the face of this massive erasure, the ancient wisdom survived. It survives in the music, in the art, in the traditions that we still practice today. It survives in the way we dance, the way we sing, the way we move our bodies in rhythm with the world around us. It survives in the healing practices that have crossed oceans, in the spiritual ceremonies that still take place in the most remote corners of the world. It survives because it is rooted in something that cannot be destroyed, the essence of life itself. And so we are left with a choice. Do we continue to live in the shadows, disconnected from our spiritual heritage, or do we choose to embrace the truth, to rediscover the wisdom that has been hidden for so long? Do we continue to live in fear of the unknown, or do we reclaim our power, our connection to the divine, and our place in the vast, interconnected web of life? As we move forward in this journey, it is crucial to remember that this ancient wisdom is not just about the past, it is about the present, and it is about the future. By reconnecting with these ancient truths, we do not only honor our ancestors, we create a path forward, one that is grounded in love, in healing, and in a deep, unshakable connection to the divine. It is time to open our hearts, to listen to the drums that still beat in the distance, and to reclaim the power that is rightfully ours. The profound influence of African spirituality is not just something buried in the pages of history. It pulses through the very fabric of our lives today, waiting to be rediscovered. These ancient practices were not just about ritual or belief. They were a deep, intimate connection to the divine, to the earth, and to the forces of the universe that govern life itself. And though these truths were concealed, twisted, and misrepresented over time, their essence never truly disappeared. It is embedded in the music we hear, the dances we perform, the ceremonies we participate in. These are all silent echoes of a spiritual force that has endured despite centuries of oppression. As we examine the ways in which African spiritual practices have woven their way into modern life, we see something truly remarkable. These practices have not vanished into the ether, they have survived in the most subtle and powerful ways. They are alive in the chants of the people, the rhythm of the drums, the movement of bodies in dance, and even in the symbols we carry without realizing their origin. What was once seen as primitive or savage has now found a place in our most sacred and everyday practices. Take, for example, the enduring power of music in the African diaspora. When the enslaved Africans crossed the oceans, they brought with them not just their bodies, but their spirits, their songs, their ways of connecting with the divine. In the American South, the rhythmic pounding of the drum became not only a tool for communication, but a lifeline, a spiritual connection that could not be severed, no matter how hard the oppressors tried. Even when drums were banned, the beat did not stop. It lived on in the clapping of hands, in the stomping of feet, in the movement of the body. These rituals, these sacred dances, were never lost. They were reimagined, transformed, but their essence remained the same. These rhythms, these chants, are not just music. They are keys to spiritual transformation. When we listen to the drumbeat, we are not simply hearing sound. We are hearing the pulse of the universe. We are aligning ourselves with the divine flow of energy that courses through everything, through us, through the earth, through the stars. This is the power that ancient African civilizations tapped into. It is the same power that still reverberates through our lives today. It is a force of healing, of connection, of liberation. And yet, so many of us fail to see it. We are so caught up in the noise of modern life that we forget the power that lies within us, within our music, within our traditions, within our very bodies. But what happens when we reconnect to this ancient wisdom? What happens when we allow ourselves to truly hear the rhythms of the earth, the chants of our ancestors? We are healed. We are empowered. We become more connected to our true selves, to each other, and to the divine. This is not just a spiritual truth. It is a reality that shapes our physical world as well. These ancient practices taught us how to live in harmony with nature, how to align ourselves with the energy of the universe, and how to tap into the divine power that is our birthright. However, we are living in a time when so many people have forgotten this connection. They have been taught to look for power outside themselves, to seek it from external sources, whether it be institutions, leaders, or religious authorities. But the true power, the power that can change lives, is found within. It is found in the rhythms, in the chants, in the very nature of existence. This is the key to spiritual freedom, to personal empowerment, and to a life of true meaning. The ancient African spiritual practices were not simply a form of belief, they were a way of life. They taught us to live in harmony with nature, to honor the ancestors, to understand the interconnectedness of all things. They showed us how to use the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, not just as resources, but as spiritual allies. In many ways, these practices were not about asking for blessings from a distant God, but about aligning ourselves with the divine forces that are already present in the world around us. The elements are alive, they are sacred, and they are always available to us. All we have to do is listen, learn, and align ourselves with them. Imagine for a moment what our lives would look like if we embraced this ancient wisdom. What if we truly understood that the divine is not something that is far away, something that can only be accessed through intermediaries, but that it is within us, all around us, waiting for us to recognize it? Imagine if we truly lived in harmony with nature, respecting the elements and honoring our ancestors. Imagine the healing, the peace, and the empowerment that would come from this connection. But as we look at the history of African spirituality, we see that this knowledge was not only suppressed, but demonized. Why? Because it threatened the very foundations of the systems of power that sought to control the masses. These spiritual practices gave people a sense of independence, a sense of power that could not be taken away by chains, by weapons, or by fear. And when people are free, when they recognize their own divine power, they are no longer subject to the control of others. This was a threat to the status quo. So these ancient traditions were labeled as evil, pagan, or savage, in an attempt to strip people of their connection to the divine and to each other. But as we know, the truth cannot be hidden forever. And now, more than ever, people are beginning to rediscover the power of these ancient spiritual practices. The music, the dance, the rituals, the symbols, they are all still here, waiting for us to remember. They are a living testament to the resilience and strength of those who came before us. And as we begin to reconnect with these practices, we are not only healing ourselves, but we are healing the world. This is where the power of African spirituality lies, not in the past, but in the present. It is a living force that continues to shape our lives and our world. When we embrace it, we are not just tapping into ancient knowledge, we are connecting with a power that transcends time and space. It is the power of the divine, the power of nature, and the power of our ancestors. It is the power to heal, to transform, and to create a world that is more connected, more just, and more compassionate. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the deep connection between African spirituality and the sacred texts of the world. We will uncover the hidden truths that have been buried within these scriptures and reveal the spiritual forces that have shaped human history. Through this exploration, we will continue our journey of rediscovery, unlocking the spiritual wisdom that has been hidden for too long and learning how to apply it in our lives today. For now, let us take a moment to reflect on the power that is available to us. It is not outside of us, it is within. It is in the rhythm of the earth, the pulse of the universe, and the very breath we take. Let us reconnect with that power, embrace it, and allow it to guide us on our path. The journey has just begun. There is a quiet power in the spiritual traditions of Africa, a power that has been feared, suppressed, and distorted for centuries. Why? Because it represents a force so profound, so unshakable that those who wield it are untouchable. The ancient spiritual systems of Africa are not just practices. They are the very foundation of human connection to the divine, to the earth, and to the unseen energies that move life forward. And that is exactly why they were feared by those in power. When we think about history, we often focus on the physical conquests, the battles fought, the territories claimed, the rulers who rose and fell. But there is a much deeper story that has been deliberately hidden, one that involves the spiritual power of the African people and their ability to resist not just through weapons, but through the profound connection to the divine forces of the universe. This is the power that colonialists, religious authorities, and empires sought to erase. It wasn't just a matter of controlling land or wealth. It was about controlling the spirit, about separating people from their true, divine essence. Why was African spirituality such a threat? Because it gave people a power that no colonizer, no king, no institution could control. It was a direct connection to the divine, a way of aligning oneself with the natural forces that govern the world. It didn't require intermediaries or institutions. It was deeply personal, deeply empowering. It was a way of understanding that the divine is not distant, not far away, but present in everything. It is in the wind, the earth, the water, the fire. It is in our bodies, our hearts, our souls. This understanding gave people the freedom to live outside the constraints of institutionalized religion and hierarchical systems of control. And that is why it was so dangerous. Imagine the power that comes from knowing that you are deeply connected to the forces of the universe, that your spirit is not separate from the divine, but an extension of it. The ancient African religions taught that everything is interconnected, that there is no separation between man, nature, and the divine. This is a worldview that empowers individuals, that gives them the strength to overcome even the most oppressive systems. The connection to the divine is not something that can be taken away. It is inherent in every human being, and this knowledge was passed down through generations, surviving even the harshest attempts at suppression. But why is it so important to understand this now, in our modern world? We live in a time where many of us feel disconnected from our true selves, from the earth, and from the divine. We are told to look outside ourselves for meaning, for answers, for power. We are taught that the divine is distant, something we must seek through external means. But what if the power we seek is already within us? What if the key to healing, to transformation, and to freedom is simply reconnecting to the divine force that has always been present within us and all around us? The world we live in is constantly trying to convince us that we are powerless, that we are small, that we are separate from the divine. But the truth is that we are not powerless. We are not small. We are powerful beyond measure. The same spiritual force that moved the ancient African civilizations to build great empires, to create sacred spaces like the pyramids, and to live in harmony with nature, is still within us. All we need to do is reconnect to it. This spiritual knowledge was not just a part of the past, it is alive today. It lives in the music, the dance, the rituals, and the festivals that continue to thrive in African and African diasporic communities. The rhythms of the drum, the call and response in song, the communal dances, they are all expressions of the same divine energy that guided kings and queens, warriors and healers through their spiritual journeys. These practices are not just cultural artifacts. They are living expressions of a profound connection to the divine, to the earth, and to the unseen forces that govern our lives. Take, for example, the tradition of drumming. For centuries, the drum has been used as a tool for communication, for healing, and for spiritual alignment. The drum is not just an instrument, it is a sacred tool that connects the human soul to the divine. The rhythms that emanate from the drum are not just sounds, they are frequencies that align the body, mind, and spirit with the natural flow of energy, that moves through the universe. The drum is a reminder that we are part of something much greater than ourselves, something that transcends time and space. It is a powerful tool for spiritual awakening, for healing, and for transformation. But as powerful as these spiritual practices are, they were not simply accepted by those in power, they were feared. The fear came from the understanding that these spiritual traditions gave people the power to resist oppression, to connect to something greater than the political and religious authorities that sought to control them. And that is why these practices were suppressed, why they were demonized, and why they were pushed into the shadows. The story of African spirituality is one of resilience. Despite the best efforts of colonizers and religious authorities to erase it, this spirituality has survived. It has survived because it is rooted in something eternal, something that cannot be destroyed by external forces. It is rooted in the very essence of life itself. The connection to the divine is not something that can be taken away. It is something that resides within us, within every human being, waiting to be awakened. This is the power that the ancient African spiritual practices offer us. It is the power to reconnect with our true selves, to heal, to transform, and to create a world that is more aligned with the divine order of the universe. It is a power that is within each and every one of us, waiting to be unlocked. All we have to do is remember. All we have to do is reconnect. And so, as we continue to rediscover these ancient truths, we are not just learning about the past, we are reclaiming our power for the present and the future. We are unlocking the potential for healing, for transformation, and for spiritual freedom. The path ahead is one of rediscovery, one of reconnecting to the divine wisdom that has always been with us, and one of embracing the power that is already within us. This is not just a spiritual journey, it is a journey to reclaim the divine power that is our birthright. And as we take this journey, we are reminded that we are not alone. We are connected to the ancestors, to the earth, to the divine forces that move through us all. It is time to embrace this connection, to remember who we truly are, and to step into the fullness of our power. The ancient spiritual practices of Africa have survived because they are not just relics of the past. They are living, breathing, and powerful forces that are waiting to be rediscovered. And as we do, we find that the power to heal, to transform, and to create a better world is already within us. It has always been within us, and now it is time to reclaim it. In the silence of the night, when the world seems to sleep, there is a deep, quiet hum that resonates within our souls. It is the ancient pulse of spirituality, the heartbeat of humanity's connection to the divine, to the earth, and to each other. It's a hum that transcends time, that echoes through the centuries, waiting to be rediscovered. And today, you and I, together, have begun to listen to that hum once more. For too long, we've been led to believe that spirituality is distant, that the divine exists only in high temples or in the sacred texts of religions far removed from our daily lives. We've been told that the power to heal, to transform, to truly connect with the divine is something only accessible to a select few. But what if I told you that this power has always been within you, within all of us? What if I told you that the connection to the divine is not something far away, but something as close as the very breath you take, the rhythm of your heart, the song of the earth beneath your feet? The ancient spiritual practices of Africa, the very essence of African spirituality, have carried this truth through the ages. They were not about ritual for the sake of ritual, but about living in harmony with the divine energy that moves through everything. They were about recognizing that the divine is not separate from us, but is the force that binds all things together, life, nature, the universe. And despite the centuries of oppression, the fear, the silencing of these practices, they have survived. They have survived because they are grounded in truth, in the deepest, most unshakable truths of who we are as human beings. These truths are not just for those who lived in ancient times. They are for us, here, today. They are for you and me in this moment. The power to heal, to transform, to live in alignment with the divine is within us. It always has been. All we have to do is remember. And that is the gift that African spirituality offers us, a return to our true selves, a reconnection to the divine energy that runs through all of us. But it is not always easy to reconnect. The world around us is loud, chaotic, and often disconnects us from our spiritual truth. We are taught to look outside of ourselves for answers, for validation, for healing. But the answers, the healing, the connection to the divine are not out there. They are within us. And just like the ancient African spiritual practices that have survived despite centuries of suppression, the truth within us cannot be erased. It may be buried, hidden, or forgotten, but it is always there, waiting to be awakened. This journey of rediscovery is not just a spiritual one, it is a journey of healing. It is a journey of recognizing that we are not separate from the earth, from nature, or from each other. We are one. And when we reconnect with this truth, we begin to heal. We heal our wounds, our disconnections, our divisions. We heal the fear, the shame, the limitations that have been imposed upon us. And in that healing, we unlock a power so profound, so transformative, that it can change our lives and the world around us. As we walk this path of rediscovery, we are not alone. We are supported by the wisdom of our ancestors, by the divine forces that move through the universe, and by each other. And this is why it is so important to share these truths. The more we share, the more we heal. The more we reconnect, the stronger we become. This is a journey we are on together, and the more we stand together, the more powerful we become. If you feel, deep in your heart, that the words we have shared today have touched something within you, something that resonates with your soul, I invite you to offer a little bit of energy back. I invite you to show your support, to give something of yourself to help this work continue. Every bit of energy, every like, every comment, every subscription, it all helps. It's not just about growing numbers, but about growing this community of light, of healing, and of truth. Every small act of support helps bring us closer to a world where the divine connection within each of us is recognized, celebrated, and nurtured. It is an investment in your own spiritual growth, and it's an investment in the growth of all of us. If this video has brought even a little light into your life, if it has helped you see the divine in a way you hadn't before, if it has inspired you to reconnect with the truth within, I humbly ask for your support. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know how this journey has resonated with you. I believe that we are all part of this great unfolding, and your support helps keep this energy alive, helps keep this truth flowing. There is no greater gift than the gift of sharing truth, sharing light, and sharing love. If you feel this energy, if you feel the power of the ancient wisdom that is still alive today, I encourage you to subscribe, to like, and to continue walking this path with us. Each step we take together brings us closer to the divine truth that is always within us. Every step is a step toward healing, toward power, and toward spiritual freedom. Thank you with all my heart for being a part of this journey. Your presence, your support, and your energy are what make this work possible. Together, we will continue to rediscover the truths that have been hidden for far too long. And together, we will heal and transform not just our own lives, but the world around us. This is just the beginning. The light is already here. It is time for us to walk into it together. So, let us continue this journey. Let us continue to heal, and let us continue to rise in the fullness of our divine connection and in the power that has always been ours. Thank you.